As a boy in the 1950s, there was one book in my parents' house that really interested me, and that was a book of Augustus John's paintings and drawings. And I suddenly realized that there was this man whose job was to draw naked women, and which I thought was quite amazing. I mean, the only other way you could get your hands on that sort of material is if you had an uncle or a friend or something that had the National Geographic, because in that you got all sorts of ladies from all over the world. But Augustus John was the archetypal bohemian gypsy rebel artist of the 1950s. But something far more important was happening in the world of art, far more serious across the channel in Paris and in Germany. Because before the war, Walter Gropius, who had seen such devastation in the 1914-18 First World War, wanted to create a centre of excellence for young people, a Bauhaus, a place where people could make modern art and modern design. And he attracted great people from all over Europe, and they'd studied furniture, typography, ceramics, textiles, drawing, painting, architecture, sculpture. And of course, the design they created is what we all fell in love with and what we called contemporary 15 years later after the war. But there was one artist of the Bauhaus that I was very fond of and very interested in, and that was Paul Klee. There was something about the faux childness of his work and the lines and the flat faces. We'd always been taught at school to be neat and careful, and here was a man who was an artist who had developed a way of creating a fuzzy and trembling, delicate line. And so with pen and ink and watercolours, I tried making my own Paul Klee imaginative compositions. And then I started using sediment with Indian ink and floating that in water, and was able to create quite extraordinary textures. And then I learned that by grasping your body, by actually taking on a pose for a particular emotion, you could express it in a very simple way. And I could express the whole idea of fear or trepidation. But what I didn't realize was that 55 years before, Edvard Munch had painted The Scream. And The Scream was this unique painting, the first expressionist picture by this man who experimented in everything that life had to offer: sex, jealousy, misery, and all the great spectrum of emotions that flow through the idea, that flow through a young person. And as a teenager, I wandered the riverbanks, and I was lucky enough to be taken to the National Gallery, where I saw the work of Claude Monet. And these wonderful misty impressions of the River Seine struck me as being so modern. The surface was so animated, so crusty, and they were just so interesting. And another artist that I fell in love with at the time was the person who for me was the patron saint of artists, and that was Van Gogh. And Van Gogh had this wonderful evangelical side to him, where he started off his career in Holland painting miners and here peasants eating potatoes, and he believed in the dignity of labour. And somehow or other this quest to be able to draw, and in the drawing to describe what was actually happening, seemed important to me. And when I went to Wales, when I escaped London, I tried in this drawing to do the same thing, to try and express a physical action, a physical experience in the drawing, but not in the geometric Paul Klee way. I loved the farmhouses and barns of Wales, and I was fascinated by the whole idea of an independent way of life in a remote rural area. And it started to give me a new subject, new ideas, and I began to realise unconsciously I'd stumbled upon a language. I'd stumbled upon a whole life's work of stuff that I could do. And in a way, what painting had given me was a space, something that I could furnish with my own ideas.